Honestly, I think this NFL offseason, we're only in week 3, Alex, but it's shaping up to probably be the most exciting offseason I've ever seen. We've seen something. Everyone always gives, oh, the NBA has the most drama in the offseason. Not this year. It's
Mm-mm.
hands down going to be the NFL based off a smaller salary cap, first off, because we're already going to see reportedly a massacre of these teams. We're going to see some completely different rosters. Looking at you, New Orleans, negative 50, 60, 70 million in cap space, wherever the hell it is. We'll get into that more. I mean, oh my dude, there's already some huge names on the market. There's some huge names that need to be signed, that need to be tagged, that need to be paid. And so what we're going to do today, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to give you our offseason predictions of the top quarterback landing spots, some top offensive and defensive free agents, the teams that are going to change the most, teams that are going to change the least, some big names that might actually get cut. Then, of course, talking Hunter Henry, Russell Wilson to the Raiders. Carson Wentz is the MVP again. J.J. Watt is making the Cardinals legit, and that Shaq Barrett is an important man to sign. But of course, we're going to get things started. I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by AK Alex Kropp. And we're here to tell you where everyone is going to go, and you could book it.
Book it. AK here with the hot takes. This is why they call me AK Hot Takes. I got to come in hot. And a couple big things. You hit on a couple very good points at the beginning there. And a couple points I want to make there. This is going to be an incredibly interesting offseason because you're starting to see that this whole player empowerment thing just gets sprinkled into the NFL now. And when you have player empowerment, you have player movement, you have trades. When was the last time there was a massive trade that did not involve draft picks? It's so hard to trade mid-season big players in the NFL because it's so hard to learn a new playbook. With quarterbacks, this is the first time we've ever seen this much movement in the quarterback market or projected movement. And I think a lot of it too is all stemming from there's 5 first-round quarterbacks in the draft right now, and that's creating teams that are okay. Are we good with our Kirk Cousins at quarterback, our Teddy Bridgewaters, our Jameis Winston, our Jimmy Garoppolo's? Are we okay with this, or should we try to shoot for the stars, go get that elite quarterback? Because I think it's just starting to become more and more apparent that you need an elite quarterback to win in this league. And there's a couple on the market right now. There's a couple franchise-changing quarterbacks in the draft, and what creates the most buzz around the NFL? It's quarterbacks, it's movement, it's big money. And we have all of that right now in the offseason. And it's just going to create buzz around the NFL, buzz around the trade market. And, just the quarterbacks own this league. And with quarterback movement and quarterbacks in the draft that are ready to come in and contribute to a team, it is going to just continue this offseason momentum. And I just don't see the energy kind of slowing down because until all of these quarterbacks move or until the draft.
That's what makes this so much fun. But before we get into our quarterback landing spot predictions, let me just tell you about one of our sponsors, Thrive Fantasy, the best place for fantasy prop betting. So it's super fun. I mean, we've been over this, Alex. The easiest way to, if you want to get into sports betting, this is hands down the easiest way to do it. They have all the information there. They tell you the projections. You don't have to do any of the research yourself. You just build up a team going off of prop bets. So it's these little smaller things that are easier to understand. I mean, and then the best part about it, if you put down at least $20 as initial deposit, use the promo code 4th and long, they'll match they'll match that $20. They'll match you up to $50. So it's almost free money, and you'd be kind of weird to not take free money, Alex. I like free money.
Yeah.
I'm sure you like free money.
I mean, especially in a pandemic, it's almost financially irresponsible to not take this action. I mean, they're literally handing it to you on a silver platter. So it's, again, like you said, it's irresponsible to not take advantage of this. And I mean, Thrive Fantasy, what an incredible sponsor, what an incredible app. Just do us a favor, do yourselves a favor, go just dabble in it. Just dip your toe in. It's about beach season. It's about summertime. Just dip your toe in the water, see how it goes.
Hey, $20 is fine. $20. I mean, most people could do $20, and they'll match your $20. You'll get $40 essentially is what that is. So
Yeah.
I think you just got no reason but to go for it. And these other teams that need just to go for it. Let's talk about these quarterback signings, Alex. The first guy I want to bring up is actually your namesake. Let's talk about Alex Smith. Now, of course, as a recording, he's not exactly a free agent yet, but it's all but technicality at this point. It's all but technicality. He's getting cut by the Washington football team, who actually, I mean, going off on a different tangent, next season or the year after next, they should be getting a real name. So I'm all here for the Washington Red Tails, and you can't tell me otherwise. Give me it.
The Red Tails is an incredible name. That would be hilarious if they just called, like, running around and here come the tails. just
chasing tail.
Does not roll off the tongue that much.
That's why I want it. It's perfect for Washington because that organization is a mistake. But Alex Smith. So when we were talking episode ago, Alex, you were saying that, Alex Smith, he's not really an NFL starter anymore, but he's a guy that might be a stopgap starter at best. At the least, he's going to be a Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of guy that's going to be able to be a really good mentor and come into the games if necessary. And there's a team that has, at least if they don't blow the draft, there's a team that's going to have a young star in their hands, and that is Jacksonville, and that is Trevor Lawrence. And what better guy to have in your locker room mentoring this possible NFL superstar caliber quarterback than Alex Smith? You're going to give him a reasonable price, and he's a good fit there. I think Urban Meyer would like Alex Smith as a guy too. That's an Urban Meyer kind of guy. You're going to have him in that locker room. I think this is a great fit for him.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think he's a great fit with any team that drafts a rookie quarterback. You cannot have a better person in the locker room. I mean, Alex Smith is just transitioning perfectly into the Josh McCown role. Seems like Josh McCown was just he's basically the less flashy version of Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's that old wise veteran. They all seem to go to good schools, and they're talented, or they're touted as this smart quarterback, great locker room guy. And Alex Smith just falls right into that mold. And so I think I said this a couple of episodes ago, and I'm going to stick to it. I think he would be a perfect fit in Carolina because, especially with a new coaching staff, like Matt Rule's bringing in, you need a guy that's just going to accentuate that culture, help the new guy along. And the reason I think Carolina would be a great fit is because, like you said, I think he's going to be a stopgap starter. I think that money and that spot is wasted in Jacksonville because he will never see the field. Trevor Lawrence is going to have every opportunity to fail. And if Carolina, on the other hand, I think they are a great landing spot for like a Trey Lance or a Mac Jones, one of those guys that, maybe not be a day one starter, but Alex Smith can kind of take that role. He's going to underwhelm for 6 weeks. And then, just right around that bye week for Carolina, that's when you're going to start to switch. And I think he would be perfect for Carolina. Like you said, he's going to be at a reasonable number because he has one working leg and no arm anymore. So I think Carolina would be a great landing spot. But like we said, any of the teams that draft the first round quarterback would be perfect for Alex Smith.
And now there's one thing I have to say real quick before we move on to the next quarterback. Jacksonville, of course, still technically has Gardner Minshew, but we all know you're not going to have Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence on the same team. That's never going to work. No, they're going to trade Gardner Minshew either on draft day or before draft day. So you don't have to worry about that being a problem.
No, I mean, not at all.
The next guy, let's talk about Jacoby Brissette. He's been a good, reliable backup there in Indianapolis, and now he has a guy like Carson Wentz to serve under. And there's a part of me that still believes that there's a chance that he's an NFL starter. I think he's more on the Teddy Bridgewater kind of tier, where he could be a starter, but you're going to have a team around him to have any sort of success. But if you do have those pieces, then he could be fine in there. But that's why right now, free agent Jacoby Brissette, I think the best thing that you could do with him is that Indianapolis, you keep him as a backup to Carson Wentz, because while we'll get to Carson Wentz later in the show, you still want to have a backup plan in place. Jacoby Brissett's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to keep. And so that's a fine guy to keep behind Carson Wentz, a guy that could be a starter. And also, let's be honest, if he's a starting caliber quarterback, possibly, you don't want another team to have him. I think you just keep him there.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to push back on you a little bit there because I think Jacoby Brissette he's established himself a little above the he's right in between that bona fide backup and starter role where he's just kind of a hybrid where, like you said, he's kind of that 25 to 35 range of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of guy, I don't think they're going to be able to keep him at as cheap of a number that you need for a dedicated backup. Like he's going to be in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is committed to Carson Wentz. The last thing they need in a year where there's a reduced cap is a backup quarterback that costs more than a veteran minimum or just extra dollars on top of it, almost a dead spot. Because realistically, if Indy loses Carson Wentz, they're not going to be competing anyways. So you don't want to have extra assets tied up in a backup quarterback where if he's playing and he gets utilized, your season's already dead. So I think because of Carson Wentz's cap number, you need to have a cheaper quarterback. So, draft a guy on day 2, day 3, develop him. Something that, I think a lot of these teams should do that have, these big cap numbers it's the time of spending money on a backup quarterback, an older backup quarterback at that should be dead. I see no point in it unless you have a young quarterback on a rookie scale contract that you can now contribute some of those assets to development and, as almost a backstop. But if you have a veteran quarterback, someone on their second, third contract, it's so pointless to spend so much money on a backup quarterback.
So where's he go then? Where's he go?
I just see it. What was that?
Where's he go then?
He's going to go to the Washington football team.
Where are you telling me you're not sold on Taylor Heineke?
I am not sold on Taylor Heineke. Here's the thing is I think Washington football team, I mean, their quarterback room is a disaster right now. They have Alex Smith. They have Taylor Heineke. They have, I think Dwayne Haskins' ghost is actually still haunting there.
Who has the worst one, them or New England at this point?
I mean, it's those two teams are just abysmal right now in the quarterback room. And so I see them both grabbing a young guy. And I think in those situations, just like Carolina, you need a veteran backup that actually can play, that actually can start. That you don't mind putting a little more resources into because you're going to have a rookie on the books there. So going to go to the Washington football team. I don't think he's going to be that impactful this year, but he's a fine guy to just, like you said, a stopgap quarterback.
Stopgap quarterback is definitely the place to be. Next quarterback is going to be, speaking about the Patriots quarterback room, let's talk about their former starting quarterback, Cam Newton, which I still would like to pat myself on the back. I said he was going to have more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns. And
that was honestly the craziest prediction I've ever heard. And it came through like pretty easily. Like it was
right?
kind of no sweater.
Yeah, I told you I had pure confidence in that. And Alex, I'm just going to tell you right now that the next team that Cam Newton is going to be playing for next season is the same team that Colin Kaepernick is. And that's no one. Because he's not a good quarterback, he's not worth the money, and he's most importantly not worth the baggage that he brings into the facility. Not worth it, and there's no reason to sign Cam Newton. Really, there's nothing about Cam Newton screams, "I want him on my team." He's done unless like some quarterback gets injured halfway through the season and you need a backup to bring on.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not someone that you feel great with, going into a year having Cam Newton, because the problem with Cam Newton is we're seeing this a lot actually, and quarterbacks these days is it's almost like the Giannis's of the world and the Ben Simmons of the world is if you have them on your team, you have to build your team specifically geared to what they do best. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton's that way. Jalen Hurts is that way. Lamar Jackson is that way. Even to an extent, Cam Newton is definitely that way where you have to have a certain type of offense geared to him. Mm-hmm. And he is not at the level of the Lamar Jacksons, of the Jalen Hurts, where you're going to start to, build around these guys because they're just not good enough quarterbacks. He's not good anymore. He doesn't have a market. And I'm going to agree with you. I do not see a team signing him before the year, but what I won't rule out is a team that has, 1-2 injuries, maybe maybe a team, honestly, like if Jacoby Brissette doesn't go to the football team and they draft a quarterback, have Taylor Heineke in the room, one of those guys gets hurt. I don't see, a too crazy of a thing, little Cam Newton, Ron Rivera reuniting week 3, week 4 after their quarterbacks have been injured. And, he can easily put them into the system, bring some juice to the football team. And really just any team that has injuries at the quarterback position that needs a little bit of star power, just off the name alone, bring Cam Newton in. But I just don't see him impacting the NFL at all this year. And it would not shock me if he does not have a team by week 1.
Another quarterback that is going to have zero impact on the NFL this year or next season is Mitch Trubisky. Good old MVP Mitch. You never take that away from him. He has something on Pro Football Reference, and I still can't believe when you told me that. I still can't believe it, and it really is something. But there's a team that has a bad quarterback room that at the very least needs a backup. And although that the New England Patriots, their starting quarterback next season is going to be Mac Jones, the more athletic Tom Brady, they're still going to bring someone in this offseason, and that person is Mitch Trubisky. He's a guy that could be a backup in that Bill Belichick room. Mitch Trubisky, not a starting quarterback. We've been over this. We know it. But he still has enough talent to be a backup. And he has enough talent where I like to see him get away from a black hole in Matt Nagy, which is going to be doing good for no one, like having Adam Gase as your head coach. Nothing good is going to come from that. But if he's going to be able to have a guy like Bill Belichick, I would like to see where it goes. If he goes back to his backup role, learns under one of the better head coaches, he might be able to work his way back into becoming an NFL starter. So I think this is a good thing for both the Patriots and Mitch Trubisky long term.
I think you're doing a really good job of disparaging Mitch Trubisky's name right now. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he has more wins than Deshaun Watson as an NFL starter. I think that's don't quote me on that one. But
it's not because of him, though. Come on.
It does not matter. There's been numerous players in his position and his stature that have not gotten a job.
So what's going to happen with this whole thing? Deshaun Watson's going to be traded to Chicago just to spite Mr. Trubisky at that point, huh? Is that what we're going to do?
that would be a tough look. That'd be a tough look for the whole Bears, front office there. But I honestly predict that he's going to stay with Chicago, because until I see that Chicago brain trust of Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, Mitch Trubisky, I will never see this team in a different way. Mm-hmm. Every single year, and we called this out throughout the season, they're going to start hot like they always do because they played a soft-ass schedule, be horrible in the middle of the season, bring it back at the end of the year, rope everyone back in, and then it's just going to keep happening. It's a cyclical cycle. It's just like,
we'll do this for the next 10 years.
I don't see it any other option, because Mitch Trubisky is born to be an 8-8 quarterback, and the Chicago Bears are born to be an 8-8 team for this whole 21st century. And so until I see specific, it's like betting against Tom Brady. You bet on him until he loses. And I'm going to bet that Mitch Trubisky is going to be in that Bears uniform until he's not.
Yeah, I'm putting too much faith in the Bears that they're not going to resign Mitch Trubisky. And that is my mistake. I thought I called myself a football analyst, thinking the Bears are going to do something.
You can't assume that the Bears are going to do anything rational. That's your first problem.
As long as they have Matt Nagy. Yeah. Next quarterback I want to talk about is a guy that a few weeks ago, and now a video that's becoming, I think, top 10 most watched, it was simple. The title is "The Saints Need to Re-Sign Jameis Winston," and that's exactly what needs to happen here. I mean, come on, Jameis Winston, no brainer. You pay the man. I say you give him $25 million a year, and you send him to a 3 to 4 year contract, and you keep him with the Saints. If you could afford that, I'd say at least 20. Probably going to be between the 20 and 25 ballpark. Not much guaranteed, but he could work up to that. You're going to sign that man for a good chunk of money, even though you're the Saints. And the Saints, you're going to lose a lot of people. You already lost Jared Cook, on the day of recording. But Jameis Winston is a quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints, and there is no other person that could take that role, in my opinion, unless you have Drew Brees coming back for another season for some reason.
I mean, that would just be an absolute nightmare. He's essentially
We're going to tell Drew Brees no.
He's essentially holding the city of New Orleans and that team hostage right now with the whole fake retiring, not going to retire, just all these cryptic things. And okay, let's just, for the sake of this video, let's assume Drew Brees is retired. He's gone.
Even though he's doing those sled pushes mean he's still playing football.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because his quads is the big issue right now, not his noodle arm. It really makes a lot of sense why he'd be doing,
Well,
why he'd be trying to push a weight around like that. It makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, Jameis Winston has got to re-sign with New Orleans. I honestly think you're way off on that number. I think the Saints can get him for like 2 years, 25 million, something like that. I don't think they need to pay him a ton because I don't see any other team paying him to be their starting quarterback. And I just don't see a market for him like that because when you don't play the year previously, you don't get the buzz of this guy's an NFL starting caliber team. You don't have the front offices say, if we just had Jameis Winston, we now.
Are we going back to your take where Sean Payton was actually hiding Jameis Winston this season? That's why Taysom Hill was the starter?
Yes, 100%. Because Jameis Winston, here's my prediction: he's going to sign for a reasonable deal because they already have Taysom Hill locked up, and you know my thing about having two quarterbacks on the team with both having significant cap hit numbers. Jameis Winston's going to re-sign 2 for 25, 2 for 30, something around there, and he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league in 2021.
Ooh, I like it. I like that. We'll write that down right now. I like it. You know, what's funny, though, is that this next guy, for whatever reason, he could pull it off. I would not be surprised if Ryan Fitzpatrick ends up being a top 10 quarterback next season, just based off of all the crazy stuff we see him pull. And talking about his future now is I was actually thinking like a couple weeks ago, I did a show with the Hard Hitting podcast. So shout out to those guys. They run a great show. And it was a pleasure to be on. And we're talking Ryan Fitzpatrick. And this is before the reports came out. I said, Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Broncos. And then 2 weeks later, it came out, Ryan Fitzpatrick is asking for too much money to join the Broncos. So I'm like, okay, that's not happening. So next best option, you would keep him in Miami, especially because Tua, commit to him. He's the quarterback of the future. Or if he's not, at least give him more than half a season. Okay, we gotta stop moving on from quarterbacks so quick. Like, I mean, Drew Lock, he's probably not gonna be the guy of the future, but he's only had about 16 games to show it. Let's give quarterbacks time, but that's besides the point. Miami, you're not sold on Tua right now. We saw it last season. We're going to see it this season. You're not sold on me yet. A guy that was helping you win games last year was Ryan Fitzpatrick. You keep him in that role. You keep him as a guy that's going to help Tua develop or just win you football games if you need to, because that Dolphins team is hands down contenders in the AFC conference, okay? So you do the easy thing, resign Ryan Fitzpatrick to a 1 or 2 year deal. Call it good. That's simple.
So I agree in premise to what you say, but I would love to see Ryan Fitzpatrick on the New England Patriots. Oh. I think that is just the perfect place for someone to just kind of ride off into the sunset. Go be with Bill Belichick. I feel like Bill's at this point now where, he's already kind of admitted, like, all right, like, until I get my guy in here, like, I'm not going to win this Tom versus Bill, debate here. But maybe if I could just, tank for a couple seasons, maybe wait till the next Trevor Lawrence comes around and then, get my quarterback. And then once Tom's out of the league, I can try to make my comeback. But Ryan Fitzpatrick would just be so freaking fun on the Patriots because you go from a guy that cannot complete a pass and throws every ball into the ground to a guy that will literally stand in the pocket until his head gets decapitated and throw a deep ball. So I just think it'd be so fun to see that massive beard in the New England Patriots.
No, Alex, are you talking about the guy that throws the football on the ground? Are you talking about Cam Newton, Brian Hoyer, or Jarrett Stidham?
I'm talking about any quarterback that wore a New England Patriots uniform last year. So all the above fit that box. But I think Fitzpatrick would just be a hoot in New England. It'd be so weird to see like the classiest, kind of your clean. It's almost like the Yankees of the NFL just come in with this big like Harvard grad, massive beard, doesn't really give a shoot on the field, and just chucking the ball around. And I would just love to see Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Patriots. And I think they have a ton of cap space. So it's not like them, asking for a $10 to $12 million number is going to be just too much. Because like we said, I think the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback, a Trey Lance or Mac Jones variety. You put Ryan Fitzpatrick in for 6 to 8 weeks. And then, you hope that you don't have a Tua situation where you put that rookie in and then Fitzpatrick still blows him out of the water. But
I'm sorry, but there's one glaring issue here. Okay, to your point, you said this would be a good spot for Ryan Fitzpatrick to ride off into the sunset, and that's exactly where you're wrong. Because who the hell retires in New England? Okay, you retire in Miami. That's hands down Florida, built-in retirement home right there. You stay there to retire. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Don't know it.
Do you act like when you retire, you have to stay in the city that you last played for?
You retire in the old folks' home that's already in Florida. You don't retire in the Stone Foxborough. Come on.
So you go to the Patriots, and now all of a sudden they have your retirement rights, and you got to live there for the rest of your life.
That's sense. Exactly what I'm saying, Alex. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I like that.
And now, the hands down biggest quarterback that's a free agent this offseason is going to be Dak Prescott. And even coming off a brutal injury, I'm sorry, it wasn't a brutal injury. It was just a cramp. It was just a cramp. So I don't know why he was out for right. I don't know why he was out for this long a time. It was just a cramp. Dak Prescott, obviously, just dude, walk it off, man. You're gonna be.
Someone needs to give that man a banana.
Drink some pickle juice or mustard. Also, I was always a fan of apple cider vinegar. Well, not a fan of it in the taste, but a fan that it did get the job done. It did. Oh, it does not taste good though. But Dak Prescott, there is one answer to this right now, and because I have over what I've seen the last 2-3 seasons or whatever, however long it's been, it feels like it's ever since I've been drafted to the Cowboys. I feel like they've always had problems when it comes to signing him to a long-term contract. It's not going to happen this year. There's no way that the Cowboys and Dak actually get to a long-term contract. If they had been able to do it now, then or then when he had a fantastic season, was healthy the whole time, they're not going to do it when he had a great season. Sure, a fantastic start, leading the NFL as a start, but he missed most of the season with a injury, a bad injury, and I don't see the Cowboys actually paying him. I don't see, most important, not the Cowboys, Jerry Jones paying him. I don't see Jerry Jones taking his head out of his butt and actually giving this guy the long-term contract and the money he deserves. So while I said all that, he's still going to be on the Cowboys. He's just going to be franchise tagged. He's just going to be franchise tagged. He's going to get a lot of money for a season, but they're not going to be able to commit to him long-term. They're not going to come to agreement. At least that's what all sides are pointing to. Dak Prescott, franchise tag. He's still in Dallas, but reluctantly.
So here is the prediction here for good old Dak Prescott, who, in all accounts, has proven himself to be a franchise quarterback. But there's a very, very big difference between a franchise quarterback that can lift a team by himself and a franchise quarterback that needs a team around him to be successful. And I think Dak Prescott, unfortunately, falls into the latter category. He's not on the Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. Even Josh Allen at this point is kind of in that mold of, you put a team around him, obviously that's much better, but you feel comfortable going into battle with one of those guys, and you feel like their floor as a starting quarterback, no matter who you have around them, is 9 wins. And especially in the 17-week season now, or 17-game season, 9 wins is a very attainable goal. Yeah. So what I think, while Dak Prescott has earned a long-term contract, Jared Goff and the Matt Staffords of the world, those guys get massive contracts, and Dak is in that group where he can get a massive contract. So he's going to sign a big contract, like 4 or 5 years, average value of, 34, 35 million. And after he signs that deal, he's going to be immediately traded 1-for-1 straight up for Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson. Give those two players a change of scenery. Russell Wilson wants out. He wants to go to the Cowboys. Jerry Jones doesn't want to commit to Dak Prescott, does not want to be left without a quarterback. Dak was going to be totally fine getting his money and going to Seattle. That's how that's going to be. Don't see any other way that could go wrong. Basically, I see every way that could go wrong, but that would be so freaking fun if Dak Prescott was on the Seahawks and Russell Wilson was out of the NFC West and wearing a Cowboys uniform. My gosh, that would be incredible.
Oh, that'd be such an ugly. Oh, that would take some time to get used to. That would take some time getting for both guys.
Well, Russell Wilson wouldn't really change his colors all that much because he wears the navy royal blue.
But
in some spots.
it's that Dallas, it's that Cowboys star that really throws a loop in things. Because that,
Yeah,
but if you want to be bold, that's bold. And
I
Alex,
would love that.
I freaking love that. But there we go. Our top 6 quarterbacks this offseason, that's exactly where all of them are going to go. Let us know your spots in the comments on Twitter, on Instagram, or by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, we're going to get cracking into our other ones with our offensive and defensive free agents, and we're going to get rolling through these ones. First one I want to talk about, Trent Williams. Offensive tackle was for the 49ers. You know, they got them from the Washington football team, the best tackle in all of football last season, according to PFF, and I have to agree with them. And there's a super simple answer here that the San Francisco 49ers they have a lot of free agents this year. They have a lot of stuff to take care of, especially on the defensive side of the football. So what I'm doing here is that if you're the San Francisco 49ers and you're in about the medium range of cap space right now, they have about 12.3 million as of recording this. So super easy. You spend most of your money and most of your concerns on your defense, which is a really good defense, and you just franchise tag Trent Williams. Wait till next year, push this thing off, keep him on your team.
Nope. San Francisco 49ers are going to keep Trent Williams, but they are going to give him the bag now. They are going to lock up their left tackle. They are going to draft a new quarterback, and they are going to go forward with that combo. Like you said, they have a ton of holes on the roster right now, but they have one of the best front offices right now from a competency standpoint. And I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to do everything they can to, save on the margins and, cut players that are maybe aging out of the league. And they have, dedicated salary experts in their front office that I think can maneuver. And Trent Williams was too good last year. They already committed a 3rd round pick this year with draft capital. They cannot lose him. They're going to sign him to a big deal. I think they just swallow the pill now. Don't have to worry about a 1st round pick being placed on a left tackle for the next 4 or 5 years. Lock him up now. Create him. Just create that anchor on your offensive line, the anchor on your offense. And I don't see Trent Williams regressing until, 2-3 years, because he had those 2 years off where he had no wear and tear in his body. Mm-hmm. And so you're almost getting a guy in his extended prime because he missed 2 of those years and he almost had a body reset. So Trent Williams is going to get re-signed with the Niners. I think they just bite the bullet now, sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal with 21.
And you make him the highest paid tackle in NFL history is what you're going to have to do with this guy.
I honestly don't think so. I don't think I don't think he's going to try to reset the tackle market because I don't know. He was just treated so poorly in Washington that I think
he just wants a good team.
He's just like okay being like a part of a good franchise. Like I can see myself just being with the Niners for a while. So yeah,
that's fair. Next guy to talk about, a guy that was no AJ Brown, but he was a very, very good wide receiver too. A guy that might not have lived up to the hype for a lot of people, especially being taken as a 7th overall draft pick, but still has been a solid receiver nonetheless, is Corey Davis. And I've already said Jacksonville for Alex Smith, and you're going to hear me say Jacksonville a couple times on this one, not only because they have the most amount of cap space by 7 million. The Jets are second place, 75 million. Jaguars in first with 82 million, so which is huge in this market. That's why. This, of course, all this is on the basis that they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. If you don't draft Trevor Lawrence, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
Well, no, let's operate on the premise that he's already been signed with Jacksonville.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence is a Jag, and that's why you bring in Corey Davis, a offense that it already has some good talent. You talk about Chanel, a couple other guys there. Corey Davis is going to be a solid D threat to have, being your wide receiver too, and you're going to love the offense. If you're going to bring in a generational talent like Trevor Lawrence, you're going to build around him, and you're going to build around him now. You bring that in, you're going to have some success with Trevor Lawrence, with Corey Davis. I love this move.
Yeah, I agree with you that the Jags need to bring in a receiver, but I don't know if Corey Davis is the right fit there because you already have DJ Chark. You have Laviska Shenault. Laviska Shenault does a lot of different things. He's almost, viewed as the Swiss Army knife kind of guy. He's a bigger receiver. He's an X-type receiver. He doesn't have the shiftiness and the quick in and out movements to play in the slot like you'd want with a with a number 3 receiver like that. And DJ Chark is fixated on the outside, and Corey Davis is the quintessential big play, put him on the outside, single side receiver, and big XZ receiver. So I just don't know if that's a great fit in Jacksonville. Where I do think it's a great fit is Washington. I think the football team already has McLaurin, who can play that outside, can play the slot, can move him everywhere, is your best, idea of a possession receiver. And I cannot remember the last time the football team had a bona fide deep threat than maybe when they had like Santonio Holmes or something like that, or like Santana Moss, like those kind of days where I think Corey Davis, allows them to stretch the field and gives guys like Terry McLaurin and JD McKissick ability to run underneath and do all that stuff. So, I think Corey Davis definitely finds a new team. It's just a lot of money to pay a guy, and Tennessee's cap situation right now is an absolute mess. So
probably not going to work out.
So I think
Tennessee, they have a whopping $1.6 million in cap space currently.
Can't do a lot without there, Ross.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Next guy is Super Bowl champion Chris Godwin, a guy that he solidifies himself across the league as a wide receiver 1, a guy that is going to get the bag this season, and the guy that's going to get the bag from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because he's your guy. He's a huge asset for Tom Brady. If you're going to have Tom Brady playing until he's 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, you're going to have a wide receiver with him that's going to be there for the long haul. And Chris Godwin was a weapon for Tom Brady this season. He's going to continue to be a weapon for him. You can't take away a big piece of the offense away from Tom Brady and expect him to still be successful. You got to help him out because, we keep saying this. He's going to have to decline eventually, I think, at least, maybe. I don't even know the answer.
What did I tell you about? It's you don't bet against Tom Brady until you see it, and you don't bet against the Chicago front offense until you see it. You just can't do it.
Tom Brady just never stops. But maybe, assuming that he's human, when he's 50, he might start to decline slightly. So until then, you're going to have a wide receiver that's going to sustain him, and Chris Godwin's your man.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's the most likely option is they franchise tag him and then, make their decision after next year. But I think a lot of what's going to happen is just, when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay originally, he had a 2-year window that he was looking at. It was an incredible turn of events that they won in their first year. But I think he was setting himself up for 2021. I think that's when he thought he'd have all his guys, on the same page. The Bruce Arians offense is tough. It's a really, really tough concept to grab. And you see a lot of quarterbacks start off slow in his system because it's just got a lot of nuance in it. And, I can't see the Bucs changing a ton of things, but if they don't decide to re-sign Chris Godwin because they already have AB, they already have Mike Evans, Scotty Miller was an up-and-comer. Maybe they go out and get someone in the draft, like when the Chiefs, bring in Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, this embarrassment of riches. Maybe they go out and they, they get, obviously not one of the Jamar Chases or Devontae Smiths or Waddles in the world because those guys are going to go early. But, maybe they go out and get a Rashad Bateman or a Rondale Moore or someone like that. And I think that's going to then free up Chris Godwin to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that we just talked about.
Stay in Florida.
A guy that Urban Meyer coached against at Penn State who tore him apart when they played. And I think that would be a perfect guy that just played with Tom Brady to now go, pass along all that information to Trevor Lawrence, be that slot receiver, bookending the Laviska Shenaults and the DJ Charks of the world. They already have James Robinson. That offense would be pretty nasty with that skill position player set
This
if
could be
Trevor
really
Lawrence is
good
ever even cooked
Jacksonville
up to be.
Jaguars team next season, depending on what they will do this offseason. It's kind of
That
crazy
yeah,
what cap space and draft capital does for you.
but you know what the funny thing is about that is it's always going to come down to the owner, and the owner has proved himself to be not the most competent guy. So we'll see if even the Jacksonville Jaguars are dummy proof if Trevor Lawrence is this franchise quarterback, because a franchise quarterback can alleviate all owner concerns, because it's just kind of one of those guys, you put him in your lineup, you put him in your organization, you re-sign him when his rookie deal ends, and he's there for 8 to 10 years, and he's a stud. So hopefully he's that kind of guy.
Next one on the offensive side of the football is going to be Green Bay Packers running back Aaron Jones, one of the most dynamic backs in the league, one of the huge keys to their offense, one of the reasons they were so successful. And that's why, I mean, you still have Williams, you still have DJ Dillon, two running backs that are solid, but there are no Aaron Jones. That's why Green Bay, pay the man, keep Aaron Jones. Don't let you already don't surround Aaron Rodgers with offensive talent. So don't give a piece of offensive talent away. You have to keep him. It's easy. It's simple. Sign the man, pay the man.
I get you, but here's the problem. If the Packers want to bring in a receiver, they can't sign Aaron Jones. You can't be, going around spending 12 to 14 million on a running back.
That's why I'd rather just keep Aaron Jones.
But here's they knew this was coming. They knew that Aaron Jones was a free agent next year. Yeah. Why would they draft A.J. Dillon in the second round if you weren't going to let go of Aaron Jones? I think the writing was on the wall when they drafted Aaron Jones. And I don't know. I see them getting more, just diverting more assets to the outside. I think they proved last year that Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the league, and he just cannot be backed up by Equanimeous St. Brown, Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Those guys are just not cut from the same cloth as any other bona fide starter in the NFL. So I just think they have to spend resources on the receiver position, and that's going to not allow for Aaron Jones to get a deal with Green Bay this offseason.
Very fair. What offense needs a dynamic running back?
I think a team down south wears red and black, tried to sign one of these guys last year, worked in the red zone, but didn't work anywhere else.
Did that guy have a crap ton of arthritis and was just kind of not good anymore, not worth his contract?
Yeah, I think one thing that Atlanta needs to do before they sign Aaron Jones is definitely look at his medical records to see if he has any degenerative knee issues. And if he does, maybe don't sign that guy. But, who am I to judge a team for, giving him a second chance, because one thing that I know heals over an offseason is arthritis. That's something that is definitely a short-term injury. So, good on them. But, yeah, I think Aaron Jones is going to go to Atlanta. I think this is their big offseason move in lieu of getting a new starting quarterback in the draft. I think they're going to sign Aaron Jones. They're going to give Matt Ryan a check down guy out of the backfield. Julio's going to come back. Calvin's going to come back. They're going to run that offense back. I really, really like Arthur Smith, and I think he can do a lot of good things with that Falcons offense. And one thing that I think would just give him the best opportunity to succeed in his first year in Atlanta is to retain your veteran quarterback. He's not at the point where he's worthless. He's still got some juice. I still think he's in that 11 to 20 range of starting quarterbacks, comparable to a Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo or even like a Ryan Tannehill type. He's in that same mold of average starting quarterback. So you give Matt Ryan another weapon out of the backfield that can move and has two good knees. And I think Aaron Jones just creates just a whole new part of this offense that Arthur Smith is going to have a ton of fun with.
Next guy is Allen Robinson. And now ever since the whole offseason started, I was like, oh, Allen Robinson, just go to Green Bay, stay in the division. And now I think things have changed a little bit, especially with the Giants cutting Golden Tate Wednesday. And that's why with that, I think Allen Robinson is going to be a New York Giant. He's going to be a guy that's going to try to help save Daniel Jones's career for however long that's going to last there in New York, because I'm still not super sold on him. He's a really good running back. We've seen that because he's the team's leading rusher for essentially every single game that Saquon has not started or played in. So he has that going for him. I think Allen Robinson's a great fit though in the Big Blue, and we're probably going to see him get signed there, probably a few-year contract too.
What's the most underrated part of Allen Robinson is how effective he is with overdrafted white quarterbacks coming out of a bad school with fumbling problems, accuracy issues, have a little bit of, have a little bit of run to their game. They're sneaky mobile, have that dumb face, that face that you just see in the picture and you just, can't really, I forget, am I talking about Mitch Trubisky or Daniel Jones at this point?
That's tough.
I honestly think there's almost no other way that I see Daniel Jones's career going other than Mitch Trubisky's. So Allen Robinson is the perfect guy to just move along that career path. You're on the straight and narrow, Daniel Jones. You have this Mitch Trubisky lane, stay in it. I'll be the guy. I'll get a ton of targets. I'll get a ton of numbers. I'll keep my title as one of the most underrated offensive players. Put me on a good team and I'll win. But I don't think Allen Robinson's that type of player. I don't think he's a winning player. I think he's a good stats, bad team guy. And I think that the New York Giants is a perfect spot for Allen Robinson to be.
And they're a team that could actually be easier to afford him, as well as they still are about middle of the pack with cap space. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to cost too much money. He's going costly. He's not going to be cheap. Nah. He's not going to be cheap, but he's going to be a guy that might be a little affordable.
He puts up a lot of numbers.
He's going to be a little more affordable than our next guy, like Kenny Golladay. He's going to cost it a pretty penny. And that's why if Green Bay does the right thing and keeps Aaron Jones there, Kenny Golladay, a guy that could look great in the green and yellow up there with the Packers. He's going to stay in the North. He's going to stay in the NFC North. He's just going to get franchise tagged by the Detroit Lions because you can't lose him. You just trade for Jared Goff, and I know Jared Goff is not the quarterback of the future for the Detroit Lions. No one thinks that. The Lions organization doesn't think that, and I know for a fact Jared Goff does not think that. But you're still going to have to try to win games, and Jared Goff is going to be there to fill in until you can actually get a real quarterback. And if you want to keep a real quarterback there now, or you want to try to at least stay competitive now, you need to pair up your quarterback with a solid wide receiver one. And that's what Jared Goff could have in Kenny Golladay. And I want to see this because Jared Goff has never really had a wide receiver one. Alex, we touched about this, that the Rams in Sean McVay offense doesn't really operate with a wide receiver one. So that's why it'd be nice for Kenny Golladay, just get tagged, stay in Detroit for at least one more season, and keep that pairing up and see what we can do. Maybe they find magic with Goff and Golladay. It's worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's the most likely outcome of this offseason, but that wouldn't be fun. So I'm going to send him to the Chicago Bears because, I think it'd be funny to see him again in the NFC North, just basically take over the exact same role that Allen Robinson had the last 4 years, where you get a ton of targets. You have those stat lines at the end of the game where you have 11 targets for 6 catches and 72 yards, no touchdowns, and you lose by 3 touchdowns. And I see that in Kenny Galladay's future. I honestly really like the guy. I think he's, just a Megatron light, where he is incredible with contested catches, is a red zone monster. Just is always going to go attack the ball and is a really, really good outside X receiver. And he's just going to fill right in that Allen Robinson role that he leaves when he goes to the Giants. So, but yeah, he probably will stay in Detroit, because I don't see any other really option, because they're probably going to not re-sign Marvin Jones. So they have the space, and Amendola's gone. So you don't have a ton of. I think Quintez Cephas might be their only receiver they have on contract right now. So
who else is going to catch the ball? DeAndre Swift? Obviously not. We saw how that worked out.
Yeah, you definitely need a better red zone target than DeAndre Swift.
Oh, especially against a team like the Bears. The last offensive guy I want to talk about this week was the one that was released on Wednesday. arguably the greatest tight end that this franchise has ever had in their many, many decades of existing. Kyle Rudolph is no longer a Minnesota Viking, and he's going to end up. I promise you, this is the last time I say the name of this team, but he's going to end up in Jacksonville. What's better? Or okay, I'll give you two places: Jacksonville or Cincinnati with the Bengals. Two solid choices there. I'm going to lean with Jacksonville though, because I feel like Jacksonville is just going to be the one that's going to be willing to spend more money. The Bengals are still up there. Was I believe they're seventh in the NFL cap in the league, but Jacksonville, young quarterback. What's really good for young quarterbacks? A solid pass catcher to have in the middle of the field. Who is a solid pass catcher that's in the middle of the field? Oh, it's Kyle freaking Rudolph, a guy that's been criminally underrated for as long as he's been with Minnesota. He's a great guy to have in your locker room. He's a great guy to have on the field. He's a great guy to have in the red zone. You take Kyle Rudolph and you take the middle and you tear up defenses through their linebackers and through their safeties. That's the way to go with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that one either because, what does every young quarterback need? It's the most overused phrase ever. You need that safety blanket tight end over the middle. But, I mean,
it's true.
The problem is it's true. It's really true. Like, you really want a guy that can own the middle of the field. You want a big target, especially in the red zone. I think that'd be a great fit, but I think he'd be an even better fit taking the Gerald Everett role in L.A. You have a quarterback that from the NFC North that, I mean, Rudolph and Stafford have probably played each other 20, 30 times over the years. So they're very familiar with each other's games. They seem like they'd be boys. I don't know why, but they just seem like they'd be good friends for some reason. So I think he's going to go play that tight end 2 role in LA. Sean McVay is going to find a way to scheme him up to have 8 wide open touchdowns in the red zone this year. And that's going to be that.
Now let's move on to the defense. The first guy we want to talk about defensively is we go from an underrated guy in Kyle Rudolph to an underrated guy, arguably the most he's for how good of a safety is, especially in terms of rankings in the NFL. Not enough people talk about this guy, Justin Simmons, man. He's been a force in Denver the last 2 seasons in the middle of the field as a safety. He's been a great guy on the field, been a great guy off the field in the community, which is something that we need to talk about more because he's been fantastic. And that's why you do not let him leave Denver. You just got a new GM. It's not John Elway anymore. Technically got promoted to VP, but I don't even want to get into that. It's a team that doesn't even have an owner right now. That's how bad that whole front office thing kind of is. But Justin Simmons, easy. If you're Denver, I doubt Denver's ability to actually be able to sign him to a long-term contract. I say they just tag him again. You keep Justin Simmons around for at least one more season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to defer to you on this one because I don't think anyone knows the Denver cap situation quite like Ross Allen.
Hey, the Denver cap situation might be the most positive thing about this team right now because they're 5th in the league with $42 million, and that's probably the best thing they have going for them at this point. And that's why they should pay for Deshaun Watson. Please do it. Please. Yep.
Please listen to me, Nick Sirianni. Please
speak into existence, Alex. Yeah, speak into existence.
Justin Simmons. I can't see him in any other uniform than the Broncos right now. I mean, Vic Fangio uses him so freaking well. I think he's actually finally going to get a big deal. I think he's going to get a big Jamal Adams type deal. Ooh. And if he does, that would just shore up that back end so well. And I mean, you transition from the days when you had Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. on the back end, and that defensive backfield was so nasty. Will Harris and I don't know. I just think Justin 2015, Simmons,
please.
he's gonna anchor that defensive backfield for many years to come. I don't see any other way that could be.
I hope so. And we've been talking about Florida teams a lot, so let's continue to possibly talk about Florida team here. A team, the Dolphins are certified contenders in the AFC, hands down. They've proven their doubters wrong. They could have, and they probably should have made the playoffs last year, but the AFC was just that damn competitive, which speaks to the talent level in that conference. But a team that is building around a great defense, arguably the best secondary unit in the game, a good defensive line, a little lacking in the linebackers, and a little lacking in maybe an edge rusher as well. And that's why you bring in free agent Melvin Ingram to the team. He's going to really help put that defense over the top. And if they're already contenders now, they're going to be a shoo-in as a contender for next season with this level of defensive talent. And a team that has the salary cap money because they are only 8th on the list, so they could afford it.
Man, did you post the salary cap list in the back of your eyelids before you went to bed last night? Jeez. Man's got this thing down pat right now. That's incredible. Just background research by Ross Allen here. Don't tell this man he's not prepared, but I think
I do
Melvin
a lot
Ingram,
of stuff during class I shouldn't.
Spot. You just admitted to sleeping during class too.
No, I don't
Melvin
sleep.
Ingram,
I just do work of this. Senioritis hits me hard, bro.
The man's efficient. We can always give him that. But I think Melvin Ingram lands back with his old defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, and he's going to go to the Las Vegas Raiders because Las Vegas Raiders have been starving for a pass rusher ever since they gave away Khalil Mack. And while Mad Max
first off, both assumed that the Raiders were going to keep Gus Bradley, which they shouldn't. They really shouldn't.
I don't know. I think Melvin Ingram is going to stay in the division. He seems like a West Coast kind of guy, and I don't know. Vegas. I don't see Vegas not being a huge free agent destination, in the coming years, because there's always that 10%, 20% of the league that is just absolute degenerates. They want to be around the nightlife. They want to be around action, and Vegas is going to have a ton of money pouring.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, Vegas. It's not about the strip. It's not about the nightlife. What it's really about, Alex, zero income tax, baby. More money for me.
100%. So yeah, I see Melvin Ingram going to Vegas.
Ooh, that'd be a lot of fun, but admittedly, bias-wise, please leave the division. I don't want you there anymore because you've caused enough trouble. Now, going to Bud Dupree as our next guy, another linebacker, and a team that needs linebackers. A team, well, they need more than just a linebacker, but obviously defense is their weak suit. They're doing good on offense. They're slowly building that up, and we can see that they need to start working on that defense as well. Bud Dupree to the Matt Rule-led Carolina Panthers kind of secure that middle spot of the field up and just fill in another piece that they need to keep working towards, because the Carolina Panthers, they need, a tight end. They probably need probably a quarterback. We'll get into that. And then they need a linebacker and edge rusher. This guy can kind of do both. And so that fills up a good hole right there.
Yeah, I think that he is, first off, I'm going to agree with you. I think Carolina is a great landing spot for Bud Dupree. I think he can bookend with Brian Burns, and they play a very, very similar style game where they're that edge rusher that can drop into coverage, that is great in run defense, and two guys that just are very versatile. And I think that is what you need in an offense that is super, super young. Because I mean, we touched on this in the draft coverage we had, with Carolina, that they were the only team in the NFL to use every single draft pick on a defensive guy. And you need some free agents. You need some veteran leadership. And Bud Dupree has been in the Pittsburgh Steelers system. Great linebackers in that system. They churn guys out. I think he's going to be able to bring that knowledge in, bring along some of these young guys. They have a good defensive line already. They need to shore up that back end and that linebacker core. And I think Bud Dupree can fill a couple different holes that this team really has. And I think he's going to be a huge addition to a young defense in Carolina.
And then, sticking with a linebacker type guy, let's talk about Hassan Rathik, a guy that really stepped into his own over this last 2020 season with the Arizona Cardinals, a team that now has JJ freaking Watt, a guy that move just came out of nowhere. Alex, I swear, when you had the Bears, I had the Bills. He was teasing both those teams too. And then what does he do?
He was. I thought we were in the running. I thought we were in a good spot.
No, he just goes to the desert. I'm like, I love the move, by the way. I love the move. I like him that he still looks good in red. So he has that down. But, oh man, him, Chandler Jones, the 2 top sack leaders from 2011, I believe is what the stat is, which is
That's the number.
ooh, that's a scary duo. And then
Crazy.
also,
Last 10 years, the two guys that have the sack leaders the last 10 years are on the same team right now.
and then let's throw in
And double
Hassan
team them
Reddick
both.
too, right? Right. And to
And
make it
double team them
worse,
both.
let's throw in Hassan Reddick, a guy that had a killer season last year, make that defense that much more lethal. Ain't just franchise tag this guy and you keep him in Arizona to see how this whole kind of trio works out. If not, if it doesn't work out this season, it's not too big of a deal. But I say you let it ride. You keep this group together, adding JJ Watt to it, and see what kind of damage you can do in that NFC West.
Yeah, I don't know. I see him going on the opposite coast. I see him going down to Florida, going down to Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a ton of holes on their defense, but mainly that defensive end spot. They lost Yannick Ngakoue last year. I think Hassan Reddick is able to fill that. More of an outside backer than a true just put your hand in the ground defensive end. I think Urban Meyer, he's got a college type system. In college, he always had incredible pass rushers, whether he's at Florida or whether he's at Ohio State. So Hassan Reddick is going to just give him that tool, that asset to have it on the edge. And I just see him filling that gap that, Yannick Ngakoue and pairing Hassan Reddick and Miles Jack together, I think is going to be an incredible tandem. So much athleticism, so many tackles. They're going to be great against the run. And that's something you definitely need to do in the AFC South with probably 2 of the top 5 running backs in the NFL in that division. So you need to be great against the run. And I think Hassan Reddick gives them that asset to be able to compete for years to come.
And now moving on to the next guy, we talked about underrated guys. This might be the most underrated guy in the league.
I wonder why you said that. I wonder if you picked him as that guy last year.
I did say that this guy was going to be the most underrated player in Shaq Barrett, and he still is. But luckily, people are finally starting to put some freaking respect on his name. He's coming off being franchise tagged by the Tampa Bay Bucks, and with all this newfound respect, Alex, all this success he had during the season, especially in the Super Bowl, being a guy that really led them, helped lead that pressure, help just make a awful day in the office for Patrick Mahomes. Shaq Barrett is finally going to get the respect he deserves, and he's going to get that back. He's going to get a nice, good-looking 4-year contract this offseason to stay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Are they able to Shaq or franchise tag Barrett again?
I think technically they're able to franchise tag him, but there's a different guy that you should be franchise tagging on that team.
Yeah. But I think they're going to do whatever they can to keep Shaq Barrett. The funny thing about winning the Super Bowl last year and having Tom Brady as your quarterback is, how freaking cool is it to play with Tom Brady and to play for Bruce Arians? Like, that's got to be like the most fun team in the NFL. And I don't know why you wouldn't want to stay with that team. Shaq Barrett is always going to have that opportunity to get his big money. I don't see him signing a long-term deal in Tampa Bay, because I think that a lot of those guys on Tampa Bay, if they
does that belong to Levante David?
I think the same thing with Devontae Davis. I think they're both going to just sign short-term deals.
I think he's going to be tagged. Is the thing. I think he's just going to be tagged.
You think Barrett is?
I think Davis going to get tagged.
I don't think so, because I don't know if you have to pay him that much money. Like what people forget to understand is the franchise tag is not cheap. It's not inexpensive.
It's a lot of money.
You don't franchise tag a guy unless you think he's going to get big money, because
Devontae Davis should get big money. He should get some big money.
No, I agree. That's why. I don't agree. Levante David should get top 5 money. I think he's a little past his prime. I mean, he's got to be up there. What is he? Mid-30s, early 30s?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to
don't matter.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't think Shaq Barrett gets a huge contract this year. I think the AAV is going to be huge. I just don't think it's going to be long term, because all those Bucks are on Tom Brady's timeline, and that's that's just how I think they're going to structure a lot of their deals if they do have their veterans come back.
That's fair. And I just want to throw this out there, not really on the list, but Levante David to the Broncos. Let's make that happen. Let's yes, please. Or
Anybody else you want to request from the Broncos that's top 5 of their position?
Richard Sherman.
Top 5 of their position. Give me a break.
Just want to give you that.
Gosh, I don't think he's capable of playing man-to-man defense anymore. The only reason he was good the last 2 years in the 49ers defense is he's an incredibly smart cornerback and plays the zone,
Right,
top
Alex,
5 in the league.
Top 5 in their position. Is Patrick Peterson a top 5 guy in his position?
It's system dependent, but yes.
All right, then let's talk him because he's our last defensive guy for this show. And a team that is rebuilding, a team that needs to work on their defense, a team that needs a secondary to actually be in place. Patrick Peterson, he's going to stay with the red and black, but he's going to the red and black that is in Atlanta, Georgia. Patrick Peterson to the Atlanta Falcons. Let's make that one happen right there with not going to be a super high value contract because he's probably little on the I guess he's on the decline at this point in his career, but so really good guy to in that secondary and the guy that I would love to have on my team if I was Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, let's play a little game here. Where is a team where elite cornerbacks go to end their career?
Is that Atlanta?
No, it's not.
It's not Atlanta.
Same team I'm talking about here. Where's a team that had a defensive player in the year in the last 3 years and is probably going to trade that player?
Are you talking about Stephon Gilmore?
I am talking about Stephon Gilmore. Ooh. Patrick Peterson is going to take the route that Darrelle Revis took after being with the same team for multiple years, being an all-pro at your position, being a cornerstone, Revis Island. And Patrick Peterson was on that same level for a couple years there in Arizona. And after they trade Stephon Gilmore, which most executives right now are saying is almost a foregone conclusion. So once that happens, New England's going to have a massive hole in the secondary, and Stephon Gilmore is your, quintessential lockdown corner, 1-to-1, man coverage specialist corner, and Patrick Peterson fits that same mold. He's a big physical, get in your face kind of corner, and I think especially with half of the refs being on New England's payroll, a guy that uses their hands a lot and is a very physical corner, you need that extra boost of, we're not going to call illegal contact or a PI on this guy. We'll call it on the next time because we're still getting paid by the old Bill Belichick Bob Kraft machine there. So Patrick Peterson to the New England Patriots, you can book it.
And now one of the other topics I want to cover is there's going to be a lot of changes this season, especially with cap space, especially with just a really excited, there's going to be a lot of big name free agents on the market, especially with teams having to make those cap casualty kind of cuts that we've been seeing already. So I just want to tell you that the team that's going to look the most different is, it might sound basic, but it's going to be the New Orleans Saints because, hey, you're a negative $64 million in the pit right now. You can't do that. You're going to have to cut some key players. You're going to have to make some key changes. Trading LaShawn Lattimore might be one of the things you have to do. So,
be a lot of good corners in the market this year.
That's a tough one to swallow. That would be a tough one to swallow. And the team, there's always that team that just does nothing. Looking at probably like the Green Bay Packers a lot of the time. But the team, in my opinion, that's going to stay almost exactly the same, or they'll do the least roster changes possible. The Tennessee Titans. I got the Tennessee Titans being the most basic team this offseason because there's not much they need to change. You might bring in a couple of key guys, but the only problem is you only have that $1.6 million in cap space right now, so you can't bring in those big names. You're going to kind of have to fill around with the roster, see if you can get some more medium tier to lower tier guys that aren't going to be those huge star makers that in your team, but ones that are still going to make you better.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the second one there because I think this team that I'm going to say is in a very similar situation to Tennessee, where they're locked in at the quarterback position. They're they have a very, very good, impactful receiver that's a free agent right now. And of course, I'm talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the thing about this question is the team that makes the least amount of roster changes usually is because you have a really, really good team and a really good roster together, because there's a lot of the times nothing you really need to change. And so I think the Tampa Bay Bucks are they're just gonna roll again with the same team they had last year. And if you start to
Just
see
run it
veterans
back,
come
baby.
back,
Run it back.
why wouldn't you run it back? It makes the most sense. And I think the team that's going to make the most amount of roster changes, and I'll caveat this by saying I don't know if it's going to be, all of their name brand guys, but I think the 49ers are going to have probably 30 to 32 new players play a snap for the team this year. And that's just because they have so many free agents. And I think they're going to make a change at quarterback. They're going to have a new running back. They're going to have a new offensive line on the interior.
Draft wide receiver or quarterback or both.
Their defensive backfield is going to look completely different. Every corner besides Emmanuel, or is it K1 Williams or Emmanuel Mosley is a free agent. So they're going to have a ton of turnover in the backfield. So yeah, I think that the Niners make a ton of changes. I don't think it's going to be your George Kittles or your Ayuks or Debo's or Trent Williams of the world, or Fred Warner's or Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa and Javon Kinlaw. So all those guys are going to remain the same, but a lot of their less impactful guys are going to be turned over this year.
All right, Alex, I have 6 names I want to give you next. Those names are Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater, Riley Reif, Julian Edelman, Von Miller, and Zach Ertz. All these guys, big names in really key positions on their respective teams. But there's also all these guys that, if cut, could save their teams a huge amount of money. Jimmy G will save you 23.6 in 2021. Teddy Bridgewater gives you 2.9. Riley Reif, 11.8. Julian Edelman, 3.4. Von Miller, 18. And Zach Ertz, 4.7 million. So out of all these guys, who's most likely going to get cut?
Actually, I think it's the same guy that's going to get cut is the best player on this list, and I think that's Von Miller. I think Von Miller. It just makes I don't know. I think the injury last year almost made this a cleaner break than if he had a massive season, and him and Bradley Chubb just looked incredible with each other. But saving 18 million for a team that is young and rebuilding, and I don't think they're close to contending right now in an incredible division.
I've heard too much.
Yeah, so I think they cut Von Miller because he doesn't have as much long-term value than a guy like Justin Simmons has. So you signed Simmons to a long-term deal. You cut Von Miller. You say your goodbyes there, and I think that's probably a guy that is always going to be remembered in Denver. I mean, he's got a Super Bowl, so he'll probably
single-handedly ruined Cam Newton's career.
He really did. I mean, that the fumble recovery, not fumble recovery.
And both of the forced fumbles he had on Cam Newton. Oh.
Yeah. So I think he's had a great run in Denver, but it's time for them to go their separate ways.
I do think Von Miller is going to end up getting cut by the Denver Broncos. I do believe that, but I think it's more likely. I guess maybe both these guys are going to get cut. And then, Zach Ertz probably going to get cut. I think the most impactful one here, and the one is going to be the one that's going to save you the most amount of money. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get cut from the San Francisco 49ers. And we already had John Lynch come out and say, Jimmy G's our guy, but how much weight do you really want to put into that? I don't buy it. And Jimmy G's not the guy of the future. Alex, you've been talking this show that they're going to end up drafting the quarterback. I believe they're going to end up drafting the quarterback, or at the very least trade or sign someone else. Hell, I'd almost rather see the return of Alex Smith to the Bay Area. It's something like that. I know you probably don't. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration.
As a backup, he's fine.
He's fine. I'm still mad that they chose Kaepernick over him, because I would love the dual quarterback. I want them to actually try Kaepernick and Alex Smith just to see if it would work, because I always had the hunch that it might. But of course, that was like a decade ago at this point, so who really cares? But Jimmy G, you cut him. He's going to save you a crap ton of money, and he's going to allow you to sign more free agents to have less roster turnover than you really need to. Also,
so here's one thing. You touched on a really, really good point there. And I think, we touched on it a little bit before too with the 49ers. Their front office is very, very sharp with the cap. And you see Teddy Bridgewater and Jimmy G, two guys that signed, decently big contracts. I mean, Teddy's wasn't crazy big, but it was still, 21 million a year for 3
contract.
years.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting part is you cut both those guys with Teddy Bridgewater, you're saving 2.9 million off the cap. And because Jimmy G's contract was so front loaded and had a lot of, early incentives and signing bonuses, they could save 24 million if they cut that guy, almost, 10 times what you save with Teddy Bridgewater. So I think those two things are crazy. And what I actually think might be crazy is it already came out today as you're listening to this, but if the Jimmy G gets cut, I can see them bringing in Teddy Bridgewater if they draft a guy.
Another floor raiser, just like what Jimmy G is.
Seriously. And I mean, the Niners, we already see that Jimmy G can take a team to the Super Bowl because the Niners team was so good. So you bring a guy in with like Teddy Bridgewater and you save 24 million off the cap, and maybe you use all that money to re-sign Trent Williams and bring back, one of your cornerbacks, and you pick up a lot of guys in the draft. So, yeah, I mean, I can see that happening, but I just think it's crazy because you have 24 million by
That's
cutting
a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And the bottom line is that your favorite player of your favorite team is probably not going to be with him next year, just because that's how this cap situation is going to roll. And like most NFL offseason, especially if you're on a team that isn't contender, that's in using the R word, prepare yourself for disappointment, because it's probably going to happen, and you're probably going to end up heartbroken. But on the behalf of the half of that statement, Alex, let's get a little more positive. Let's get a little more happy. Let's get the feelings rolling into the last segment of the show, and let's roll it. All right, here we go. 5, 4.
Hold on. Let me get a thing of water real quick.
Yes, sir. Oh, it's going to be a late day for your boy. Sweet shit. All right, it's late. Oh, the gym is going to suck tomorrow morning, but fuck sleep, it's useless. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to another buy or sell segment. Of course, if you don't know how this works,
favorite time of the week.
It's the best time of the week. It's the only time of the week that matters, unless we're talking about chest day at the gym, because that day matters a whole hell of a lot.
I mean, that is the best day of the week by far.
And Mondays, shout out to Mondays, International Chest Day. If you don't celebrate that, I don't know what you're doing with your life. But of course, with the way this works is, if you don't know, we give you a handful of statements, and it's up to you of whether you're going to buy or sell that statement. And Alex, with JJ Watt proving us wrong, rejoining his teammate DeAndre Hopkins, going over there to the desert with the Cardinals, with a defense that is already pretty damn good. And okay, just real quick, that NFC West defensively is hands down the best defensive division in the league. It's not close. And if you're Russell Wilson, you gotta get out of there.
Get out.
Otherwise,
you don't want to face these defensive lines, I promise.
Russell Wilson is going to die this season if he remains a Seahawk, but we'll get to that question. But the first statement I want to propose to you, Alex, is that the JJ Watt signing now makes the Cardinals NFC Championship game contenders.
I cannot sell this statement faster and for with more certainty, because here's the problem with the Cardinals is
the problem.
You still have a young quarterback, and you still have a coach who has absolutely no idea what to do in a late game situation or a late half situation. Mm-hmm. He's already established himself as one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL from a game management and just an overall understanding and awareness of the game of football. So adding JJ Watt to that situation doesn't help stupid at the coaching position. So
JJ Watt can coach.
Yeah, JJ Watt can coach, but yeah, maybe 7 years ago when JJ Watt was winning multiple Defensive Player of the Years, but he's a different player now. He's not worth 15 million. I think it's an absolute waste of money, and I just don't see this really
What
having a
about the
huge
Colts
impact,
offering more money reportedly to bring in JJ Watt?
which is even dumber because you have DeForest Buckner making 20 million a year. Why would you want to put another guy up for 20 million a year but plays the same position? Makes absolutely no sense.
No. The Cardinals, they really should have made the playoffs last year as a 7th seed instead of the Bears. They really should have.
They have a bad coach. What are you gonna? What else can you expect?
Better. I expect Cliff Kingsbury to not be worse than the Bears, but of course that's too much to expect. Also on the defensive side, you have Vance Joseph, who is also a moron when it comes to coaching. If this team had a real coaching
And they even
staff.
should have been worse. They had that crazy fluke Hail Murray play.
Exactly.
They should have been worse.
I feel like that's what JJ Watt did. Instead of going to the Buffalo Bills, he went to the team that got the Hail Mary over them. Just a little bit of disrespect right there. Buffalo fans, don't get
Or
too
salt in that
disrespected.
wound.
But I think that the Cardinals, they're going to make the playoffs next season. Already, it's early, but I'm still going to say they're going to make the playoffs. And I'm going to sell the statement that they're NFC Championship game contenders because I'm not going to go that far. Not going to go that far. There's some people saying they're championship game contenders, Super Bowl. No.
What is JJ? What is JJ Watt?
JJ Watt is a great acquisition. He's not going to do
This
that.
isn't Tom Brady, ladies and gentlemen. This is JJ Watt.
You still have a quarterback that's 5'8". Okay, so let's pump the brakes on
When was the
that.
last time JJ Watt played 16 games in a season?
The funny thing is, I think since like 2013 or maybe 2011, he actually has the most defensive snaps played. But obviously, he hasn't played the full season in what feels like forever, which is unfortunate for us, for him, because he's always better on the field. But I will say that their ceiling has raised to a divisional round playoff game. Their ceiling has raised to that. And if they're able to keep that, the Cardinals are not the best team in the division, but because that still belongs to the Rams. I think the Seahawks are actually the worst team in the division at this point. The Cardinals could be the second best team in that division, depending on how things shape up offensively. I just don't see them making the NFC Championship game, at least a wild card. But if they make the divisional round, I would not be surprised.
And let me correct myself real quick before I get absolutely hammered in the comments. But I wasn't including 2020 as the last year that JJ Watt was played a full season game. Because I mean, I feel like he's had like maybe one full season, and then he's had a couple where he's just played a handful of games. And I think it was 2017 or 2018 where he had 16 sacks and he looked really, really good again and played all games. But the other seasons he just had season-ending injuries, and it's just not someone that you want to give $15 million a year for.
Exactly. Next statement I want to bring to you, Alex, is that with the trade, which of course I said it was going to happen as soon as we saw the whole Carson Wentz bench for Jalen Hurts, I was saying Carson Wentz to the Colts. So I would like to pat myself on the back for that. I did make that statement. I'll find it if we need to. But Carson, I love this move to the Colts. I love this trade to the Colts. And I think the Colts kind of fleeced the Eagles a little bit in this trade. I thought it was a fantastic move. He's a good fit for that team. He's going to step up from Phillip Rivers. And they were a solid team with Phillip Rivers. They're going to be an even better team with Carson Wentz. I think the biggest change in here that I'm looking at is if you look at the quarterbacks that were pressured the most, last season or in this most recent NFL season, Carson Wentz, he had 11 sacks taken in less than 2.5 seconds.
Jeez.
11. That's the most in the league. This dude was pressured an ungodly amount of times. Of course, if you're a pressured quarterback, that's not going to lead to success in the NFL, no matter who the hell you are. And now you're moving behind one of the best offensive lines in the league with a solid running game that's going to take the pressure off of you, a great defense. Essentially, the Colts have everything that the Eagles didn't have. So this is a really good spot for Carson Wentz. And that's what, Alex, I'm going to give you the statement. I'm going to buy the statement that Carson Wentz is going to return to his MVP candidate form with the Colts, he's going to lead them to at least the divisional round and maybe even the AFC Championship game. I wouldn't be surprised because this Colts team is really good. I really love what they're doing there in Indianapolis. They're building up the team the right way, and Carson Wentz is still a solid quarterback, and he's going to return to form because he's going to be in the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really dispute too heavily anything that you say there. Besides that, just the fact that I don't think he's going to put up the stats to be an MVP candidate. So I'm going to sell the statement. I think he's going to be a great quarterback for this team. I think he's going to have, his touchdown interception ratio is going to come back down to earth. I see him having like a 30-12, 30-13 kind of year. Doesn't jump off the page.
Stuff. You can't complain about that.
And I think the Colts are going to be really good. I think they're going to be 12-5, 13-6.
That threw me off for a second. No, we are going 17 games next year.
Excuse me.
17 games.
Yeah,
you said 12-5. I was like, wait, it took me a second.
Yeah, no, it's weird to think about too, but yeah, no, I think the Colts are going to come back to it. They're winning form.
Wait, Alex, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that means a point you made earlier in the show about Mitch Trubisky being an 8-8 quarterback is now void.
Oh no,
Mitch Trubisky's no longer an 8-8 quarterback.
No. He can always tie.
He's an 8-9 quarterback.
He can always tie.
He's an 8-1 quarterback.
Yeah, that's what he is. Yeah. I'm glad you interrupted me to that though. That was really pressing. I would have gotten hammered by the people if we didn't acknowledge that. So thank you.
Oh boy.
Getting back to Carson Wentz there, I think he's gonna have a good year. He's gonna have a solid year. He's got a top 5 running back in the backfield and an offensive line that needs to run block for them to be effective. That's what Quentin Nelson does. He's an